Ambulances stacking up, patients stuck on trolleys. Accident and emergency departments across England are really up against it.
2 minutes gone, guys.
This winter, the government proudly announced £400 million is being spent to head off the crisis in A&E.
If they're coming in and there's no beds, there's nowhere for them to go.
But tonight, dispatches can reveal that government penalties also mean that more than £1 billion has been withheld from English hospital budgets since 2010.
You have a very busy year,
yeah,
and you're penalised.
Yeah.
How's that fair?
Well, it's not fair, is it?
And we ask, could that missing money mean poorer care for all of us?
If you penalise hospitals, or if you don't provide them with the full cost of the treatment that they're providing, then you get worse care.
Full again.
Our hospitals have long been bursting at the seams. The Labour government decided it could help solve the problem by giving hospitals targets. But David Cameron reckoned these were making matters worse and said he'd scrap them.
We'll say to doctors and nurses, those national top-down targets you hate because they distort clinical priorities, they are gone.
Despite that promise from the PM, his government has kept some targets and even added new ones, with extra financial penalties for hospitals too. Yes, the money stays in the NHS, but it's no longer up to the hospital how to spend it. This only affects England. The system works differently elsewhere in the UK.
Dispatches has discovered that since 2010, those financial penalties mean hospitals in England have missed out on more than £1 billion worth of direct funding. We wanted to know what that could mean for staff and patients, so we spent 24 hours at my local A&E here in York.
Early morning and the new shift clocks on. It's going to be a stressful one. By 7 a.m, York Hospital is already full. The night before, for the first time in 30 years, ambulances had to be diverted to another A&E.
Morning, ladies. Morning. Nice. Oh, it's been a busy night. We were on divert till 8:30 last night. First time I've ever known it happened in the history of me working here.
The hospital's on red alert. A vomiting bug has closed some wards to new admissions.
It's just been really busy. We've had some long waits. There's a 14-hour wait for one man. Drop the phone.
Home to bed.
Home to bed.
Poorly patients need to be moved from A&E onto specialist wards. But if that can't happen because there's no room, people are kept in A&E treatment bays. And when those are full, patients stay on trolleys in corridors or in the ambulances themselves. The whole system backs up.
AMU have no beds.
Okay.
ASU have no beds. Ward 28 have no beds.
Okay.
So there's a bed shortage.
Okay.
We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 waiting to go up with no beds.
The hospital's under extreme stress and patients are waiting longer to be seen. The government gave £2 million to help York Trust through winter. But at the same time, on hectic days like this, the Trust may end up losing money under a new government policy.
When was the last time you were here? Last time it was 6 minutes ago. 6 minutes ago.
David Cameron's first NHS reform was a new penalty that applies to readmitted emergency patients.
The government was concerned that too many patients were ending up back on the wards soon after being discharged. Their suspicion was that doctors were sending them home too early. So in comes a target to avoid readmissions. Now, if some patients come back for more treatment within 30 days, which could have been avoided, say, by better follow-up care at home, the hospital may not get a single penny for looking after them.
At 10:30, A&E gets exactly what it doesn't want. A patient needing a bed, who they potentially won't even be paid to treat because she's a readmission.
Right, we've got a bed for you today.
This lady's in her 70s and has loads of health problems.
The hearing aid box is in that bag.
Oh, I'll get you it.
Today she's having trouble breathing and needs to go to a ward.
You brought medication in with you, yes?
Yeah. Sorry.
You've been put on a steroid recently?
Yeah, I was in 3 weeks since.
Right.
For a fortnight.
Because this lady's back in again so soon, she falls into the category of patients that the hospital won't be paid to treat. She has a long-running chest problem. Trying to work out exactly why she's back in hospital will be tricky. The issue may lie with her GP, her community nurse, or it could be just the fact that she's old and ill. But it'll be the hospital that ends up losing the money.
You got that press nice and tight? Yeah.
It's a system that some in the NHS feel is grossly unfair.
There is a huge set of people who we know when they leave hospital they don't get the quality of care that they really ought to have. For example, they go into a nursing home and that nursing home doesn't provide the right quality of care, and you know that might be regarded as avoidable, but it's not the hospital's fault.
In York, in the week that we were there, they lost £24,000 on emergency readmission penalties alone. It's a district hospital. What sort of hole does that create in the budget?
It's a nurse.
A nurse for a year?
Absolutely. So as a result of imposing that penalty, York will not be able to employ a nurse that it otherwise would have been able to employ.
Using the Freedom of Information Act, we got hold of readmission data on 143 out of 156 acute hospital trusts. The figures told us that more than £1/3 billion has been withheld from English hospital budgets under this readmissions policy since 2011. The government decided that withheld money must be spent to prevent patients from coming back into hospital. That's often simple stuff like more district nurses or better mental health support. Yet a third of hospital trusts told us that they had no idea what the previous 2 years' money had been spent on. Newly formed local clinical commissioning groups, known as CCGs, spend this NHS cash. Many of them say this investment in schemes to cut readmissions is now happening. But York Hospital's chief executive says in his area he's not seen any evidence so far that the money has been spent on schemes to keep patients away from his hospital.
The idea of the penalty is that the penalty is then reinvested in those alternative services. But the CCGs we work with have inherited a financial deficit. It's incredibly difficult, and the CCGs simply have almost no room to manoeuvre in terms of making that alternative provision available. The hospital is being penalised for a readmission that has arisen as a result of a failure to provide alternative services. And that is very much a double whammy.
NHS England is reviewing urgent and emergency care, and the man leading that review admits he doesn't know if the withheld money has been spent on schemes to keep people away from hospital.
That money's remained in the healthcare system. It hasn't disappeared.
Sure, but we don't know how
it's
been spent. We don't know whether it's been spent in the appropriate way.
And prior to NHS England taking over that responsibility, I agree, we don't have that exact clarity.
So the government, they weren't clear on this?
No, it came in with the right intention, but I don't think anybody can track that money through to say exactly how it was spent, but it had the effect that was wanted. We've seen the reduction in the growth in the number of people coming to hospital.
Back in York's A&E, it's gone 11. An ambulance brings a patient in who's in a very bad way. Unconscious, not breathing properly, a suspected overdose. This is life-threatening. He's straight into resus.
All right, but you're safe. You're in hospital.
Paramedics have already put a tube into his throat to help him breathe.
Open your mouth, that's it. Nice and wide, nice and wide. That's it.
They need to stabilise him. That won't be quick, and the team will need to monitor his progress.
Sorry, just stay nice and relaxed. You've got an oxygen mask on there. The tube in your nose is to help with your breathing. We're just trying to find a tube to go into your veins so we can give you some medication, OK?
So, it's watch and wait, folks.
I think so.
Minutes later, an elderly patient who could be in need of a bed arrives.
Last year, another new target came in. This one was designed to get patients off ambulance trolleys and into hospitals quickly, freeing up paramedics to answer other calls. So, since last April, if that process takes longer than 30 minutes, the hospital should be fined £200. If it takes longer than an hour, that rises to £1,000. So now ambulance staff log in using this screen, and that starts the clock ticking.
Ready, steady, slide.
York, along with half the trusts in our survey, have been given some extra time to get this working before the penalties come in. Otherwise, the fine for York would have been close on £700,000 in the first half of this financial year alone. But today there's no space on the wards. People are stuck in A&E. And if A&E is full, the hospital staff can't accept patients from the ambulances, fine or no fine.
If the hospital is full and you can't pass people through A&E, you're financially punished for not being able to turn around the ambulances in time.
It feels unfair in any way that you look at it, and it certainly makes managing our hospital in terms of the resources we have for the demands that are placed on it more difficult than perhaps it needs to be.
The government says the ambulance handover target has been a success, with delays down by a third. Nobody wants patients stuck on trolleys or in ambulances. But the hospital trusts say it's come at a cost.
You're a man with a business background. If you don't have a penalty to the target, what's the point of the target?
We all agree that it is important there should be a measure of how successful the NHS is. And yes, clearly, if you have targets, they should have some bite, but we just simply don't accept the logic that if you take money away from hospitals, you get a better service. In fact, what happens is the opposite.
In York, managers are trying to get patients moving on through the rest of the hospital.
Hello, good afternoon, it's Heather, bed manager. Can I ask, has infection prevention got back to you at all?
This is where it happens. Minute by minute, bed managers are tracking who's coming in, going out, and where it's possible to put patients.
What are you short now? One lady. One lady. Yeah.
This one room is key to keeping the whole hospital moving and A&E free of fines.
Bay 1 is now closed with diarrhoea and vomiting.
Staff visit the wards, checking up on any patients ready to be moved on.
This young lady is needs an ultrasound before she goes.
So that'll sort the lady
It will
out.
be that
Yeah.
one, and that is it.
So we'll have one female bed. Right, I'll come back and let you know what we've got.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Back in resus, the team is still working on the patient brought in after a suspected drug overdose.
This patient has been here since 11 o'clock this morning. It's now 4:30, so 5.5 hours in resus, doctors, nurses, lots of people working on him, making regular observations. It will have been very expensive for the hospital.
Have a try.
And it's likely to get more pricey still. He's been in A&E for more than 4 hours. That's another government target missed and another potential fine.
Doctors are supposed to treat, admit or discharge 95% of emergency patients within 4 hours. It was a Labour idea introduced some 10 years ago, and they said it helped to cut waiting times dramatically.
Back then, the target was higher, 98%. This government relaxed it to 95%. York now faces fines for missing this target, and so far this year, they estimate it'll cost them around £130,000.
The targets and the fines for not meeting those targets, does that improve patient care?
Overall, I don't think it does. The initial 4-hour target was a focus point, and I think that was good in its infancy. As it is now, it's a political game in a clinical arena. I don't think it does that much overall for patient care. In fact, it gets in the way most of the time.
7:20 in the evening, we've now been here for 12 hours. And in that time, A&E has seen more than 150 patients. But 8 of those people have gone beyond the 4-hour time limit to be here in A&E.
York has just breached the government target. A fine is on the way.
When you realise that so many wards are closed because of this norovirus outbreak and ill people continue to arrive at the door, you do wonder what the hospital could do about that situation.
NHS England says penalties encourage hospitals and those who look after patients in the community to work together more closely.
We use penalties where we must protect patient safety and patient experience. And that's the right thing. It makes people sit up and notice, like the 4-hour A&E target. It made everybody in the hospital, right through management, right through all the wards, all the specialties, have a focus on A&E. And that's a really important thing to do. That was the priority at the time. We will have different priorities going forward, and it's about building the right commissioning and funding system. As of April last year, NHS England, the clinical commissioning groups, put clinicians in the driving seat. Those are exactly the people that you want now in the healthcare system.
Still to come, the nurses, doctors and managers who claim hospitals are being punished by the government purely because they're busier than ever.
It just shows how big the pressure now is on hospitals. These are very, very big numbers.
Hello, I'm Brian. I'm confused.com. Whee!
The finest ocean flavours right under my nose. One deck below, to be precise. Fisherman's Delights by Gourmet. A new range of refined fish creations. Tender flakes in a delicate sauce for true fish connoisseurs. New Fisherman's Delights by Gourmet.
Purina. Martin's put the wrong fuel in his car. That's a big deal. If he misses a date with Jenny, she might think he doesn't care. And she might write a song about his piggy eyes, which becomes an overnight smash sensation in 146 countries, including Finland. Don't worry, Martin. Unlike others, we'll cover you even if you fill up with the wrong fuel. Green flag, no matter what.
Holiday experiences, designed by Thompson, Atoll protected.
Our customer reviews tell us a lot about why people love their Kia Ceed. Whether it oozes quality, or that it has enough gadgets to rival a spaceship. In fact, over 10,000 customers have posted their honest reviews of our cars, which all come with the Kia 7-year warranty. See what they're saying at kia.co.uk.
My name is Hafiz, 43. I've got 6 kids. Semi-detached, 4 bedrooms now. We had a loft conversion done. Really happy. I usually make overpayments on my mortgage. Barclays gave me the flexibility to increase payments and reduce them back to normal when I want, to free up some cash. My oldest daughter's actually getting married this year. Why couldn't you just wait till 3 years later after my mortgage was finished?
What could your mortgage free you to do?
Obsession, Churchill. Come on.
Oh, yeah.
For an 80% good driver discount, chat to Churchill.
It's the show that everyone's talking about and has sparked a huge national debate. Tonight, we get to hear what the residents of James Turner Street themselves, as well as critics, commentators and politicians think about Benefits Britain. Join us live in 15 minutes.
Government penalties mean £1 billion has been withheld from hospital budgets in England in the last 3 financial years. We're spending 24 hours in my local A&E in York to find out what that can mean on the front line of patient care.
Bear with me. OK. This chap, just so you're aware, found unconscious, went into respiratory arrest.
There are some seriously ill people here, and more keep arriving. 8 p.m. and nursing staff hand over to the night shift. If too many patients breach the 4-hour wait limit, the hospital faces fines.
This gentleman was hit by a car.
The hospital is still short of beds, so some patients are stuck here in A&E.
And that's it. Have a fabulous night.
Can I ask you a question?
You can.
What are the red times about?
23:36. These times
The
here.
1920, yeah.
They're the breach times.
OK, so he's already gone.
Yes.
OK, and you've got another one who's just...
About to go.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. But is there anything you can do about that when half the hospital's closed because of norovirus, and
No.
how do you get them out?
No beds. If they're coming in and there's no beds, there's nowhere for them to go.
And then the ambulances keep turning up
And
at
the
that door there.
ambulances keep turning up.
They're moving some off to make a male bay.
It's frustrating for us, and it's frustrating for the patient as well. It's always at the forefront of your mind, a patient's breach time.
And that could mean financial punishments for the hospital.
Yep. But if we've got nowhere for them to go, we bottleneck, and everybody backs up, so there's nothing we can do about it.
But should you even be thinking about the 4-hour wait time as a nurse?
You want my honest opinion?
Of course.
For me, as a nurse, patient care comes first.
No matter whether it's 1 hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, 6...
Absolutely.
A man with a mental health condition has had a suspected overdose of his medication. Patients like this are not quick or easy to treat.
You need to try and wake yourself up a bit and talk to us about what's happened today. We can't do anything if you ignore us.
He comes round but is agitated, so hospital security are called.
Come on, in you go, mate.
He needs to be stabilised, kept safe, and he needs a bed.
If I leave you, you're going to be all right. You're not?
Could be a bit of a long way though, mate, because they're struggling with beds at the minute.
It's getting late, and still more elderly people keep coming in. These patients typically have lots of different things wrong with them. Plenty of work for the medics in A&E. Security still have their hands full, controlling the man with a mental health condition.
Just calm yourself, get beside him.
We'll be waiting here until there's a bed available on whatever ward he's going to.
6 hours after arriving, he's finally settled. But he too has gone over the 4-hour wait time. Yet another potential fine for the hospital. Our A&Es have become much busier over the last 10 years. Perhaps due to the population becoming bigger, older, or frustrated by changes to GPs out of hours. In an attempt to reduce the number of patients being admitted to English hospitals, the last Labour government introduced a radical reform. It's called the marginal tariff.
Now this is where it gets a little bit weird, because they decided that for every patient that the trust admits beyond the figure in 2008, the hospital would only be paid 30% of the cost of looking after that patient. Now, some of the staff I've spoken to here say that seems like a hospital is being docked money simply for looking after a growing number of poorly people. They say, isn't that the whole point of the place? This marginal tariff, you have a very busy year, and you're penalised. How's that fair?
Well, it's not fair, is it? It is supposed to be there to discourage us from admitting patients.
But is that within your control? Is it within the hospital's control?
Not at all, no. We're here trying to discharge people. And if we can't do that, then we have to. And this applies particularly to elderly patients. Elderly people can be more difficult to discharge because of their social problems and because of lack of social support and safety. So unless there are proper alternatives to hospital, then we end up having to admit people.
The 70% withheld from the hospital stays in the NHS with the people who should decide, in consultation with hospitals, where to spend it. Since last April, that's the clinical commissioning groups. Many CCGs told us that they are investing some of the cash in services to help stop people turning up at A&E. Exactly what the government expects them to do. But 60 trusts told us that they don't know where the money withheld in the first 3 years of the policy was spent. Last year, York lost £6 million under the marginal tariff.
What could you do with that £6 million?
Well, that would pay for 6 wards worth of nurses in any 1 year. That would pay for 50 to 60 consultants. It would pay for some desperately needed capital investment.
You know, the government will say that that money will go into other schemes designed to prevent people turning up at A&E.
Absolutely.
Is that working?
No, and I don't know the evidence across the country, but I would suggest the success of that is variable. And
but you're telling me in this area, the 70% is just disappearing?
No, I don't say that in any way critically. We have commissioning groups who are working in deficit with financial difficulties, and their therefore choices are incredibly limited. I think an inability to invest that 70% is a function of the environment we're currently working within.
The main CCG for York says it will be working in collaboration with the Trust and others to invest withheld money into preventing hospital admissions to achieve the best in health and well-being. NHS England says the tariff has slowed the growth in emergency admissions. Around England, many hospitals face a substantial shortfall. We got marginal tariff figures from 139 trusts out of the 156 we asked. Altogether, £710 million has not been paid to them in the last 3 financial years. On top of readmitted patient penalties, that's some hole in hospital budgets.
Our headline figure says that hospitals in England over the past 3 years have missed out on around £1 billion. Did you have any idea that figure was going to be so large?
No, I didn't, because it's the first time that anybody's brought together into one place that single figure, and it just shows how big the pressure now is on hospitals. These are very, very big numbers.
But let's say the figures are repeated over the next 3 years. What's that going to do to your members' ability to look after patients?
It's very clear that if you penalise hospitals, or if you don't provide them with the full cost of the treatment that they're providing, then you get worse care.
NHS England insists the policy is about improving care. They've already announced some changes, but now it might be time for a bigger rethink.
Why not scrap the marginal tariff?
Well, I don't think anything is fixed in stone. We want to see the care commissioned in a way that actually gives exactly what we want for the patients. So the patients can be treated promptly, they can be treated as near to their home as possible, they can be returned to home as quickly as possible. So one of the things we are looking at is the whole commissioning and payment structure that sits around urgent emergency care. So maybe it will go. I don't think it's sophisticated enough, and I don't think it reflects the patient's care and the journey that they need. So I expect it to change.
Last year alone, marginal tariff and readmission penalties mean York Trust lost out on £8.5 million of payments. Medical staff ask how on earth can that help an already struggling hospital?
Scan you in.
You know, you've tried your best to juggle as many patients as you possibly can within a system which, you know, overall is broken.
The system's broken?
Absolutely, it's been broken for a very long time because there's not been enough investment in it, either financially, but also investment from the point of view of thinking clearly about what patients' acute care and out-of-hours care needs may be.
The workflow aesthetic will do it, so I'm afraid. Tell me if you get any double vision.
The end of our 24 hours, and another team is taking over.
And he's pain-free at the minute, 2 out of 10.
Many of the A&E staff we were on shift with say each day brings more of the same. More patients, more government penalties. The Department of Health says whilst the majority of patients continue to get excellent care in A&E, its review into the future of accident and emergency funding will address some of these concerns.
Since 2010, 1 million more people are visiting A&E, and the NHS needs to change to cope with an ageing population.
It says that's why it's reviewing how the NHS should respond to demands for emergency services.
In the longer term, we are bringing back the link between GPs and elderly patients and investing £3.8 billion in joining up health and social care.
As for the patients we met in our 24 hours in A&E, the man with a mental health condition was discharged after 48 hours. The patient with a suspected overdose went home after 10 days. The readmitted lady spent 2 days in hospital this time, but sadly, she died 2 weeks after our filming.
You can see the NHS at its very best every Wednesday here on 4 with 24 hours in A&E at 9. Get in